Welcome to X-Day North America 2021 CX Product Showcase. Today I'll walk you through 4 product updates related to CX workflow, hierarchy management, notification priority, and our new feature, Outerloop. Our CX workflow is designed to help you assign and send different surveys to different customers, all from the same data file, simplifying the deployment process. It enables you to automate the reminders and survey invites already sent. The ideal use case is for when you have multiple surveys using multiple invitation templates that you're trying to get to precise customers in a precise way. In this case, we have a relationship survey that we send out to all customers at some point. But we also have a contact center invitation, which may be based on a transactional touch point, product installation, product update, and on-site support. Our workflow rules allow you to define specific requirements for when you import the data and assigning them to a survey and an email template. In addition, once you've imported the data, you can set up specific rules that flag when each invitation should go out. It can go out immediately, or it can go out scheduled based on number of days after the import or number of days after the transaction is scheduled to occur or occurs. Similarly, you can also set up workflow rules for reminders so that you can define the template that's used for the reminder, as well as the criteria, how many days after each survey delivery it occurs, and how often it repeats. We also have a series of rules in place that you can add to exclude surveys from specific groups for whatever reason you may need to exclude them. In some cases, very high-end customers should not be surveyed and only should be left to the account executives responsible for that account. In other cases, you may want to avoid sending a survey to someone whose account is in collections because of the negative feedback you're likely to receive as a result. And of course, there's survey resting period. Within a specific feedback folder, not only can you set a resting period that covers the entire feedback folder, for example, you can make sure that no one gets a survey any more than every 10 days, but also you can set resting periods that go above that for individual surveys. So if you have a resting period of 10 days, even those ones marked at 0 will only get a survey every 10 days, but those that get a relationship survey in this example would only get another survey after 180 days for that relationship survey, though they could get another product update after the 10 days. Our workflow rules can target both a segment as well as custom variables in creating criteria to determine who should be assigned to which survey. Each customer is then assigned using the import rules. The import rules are executed based on the order in which they appear in this section. So if a customer qualifies for a product install, that record will be first assigned to product install and will not be assigned to any of the other subsequent surveys. If they are not assigned to an install, it will go through each of the work rules as defined here and determine if they should be getting a survey based both on the criteria set within the workflow rule as well as the resting period. In this case, if none of the criteria matches, no survey is sent. At times, it might be necessary to change the priority order in which a record is assigned. For example, you may want to assign the elite customer to get the survey first for their relationship survey with the company before anything else. Therefore, we can quickly and easily drag that to the top, update the workflow order, and make sure they are prioritized for the relationship survey for our elite customers. And then all other rules will fall into place afterward. This will allow you to not only rearrange pre-existing workflow rules, but also as you add new workflow rules, you'll be able to update them according to where you want them prioritized every time a new record comes in for a customer. Within the QuestionPro CX platform, we use the term segment to explain how a business may split up its entities, locations, branches, or structure in a way that you would want to report the information laid out to you. Each segment can be defined at a top level, reporting to a main segment, or child segments, which can be broken down to regions, districts, or even individual outlets. These breakdowns are the top level assignment of each record that comes into the QuestionPro CX platform for assignment within reporting, as well as within our closed loop feedback tool for action management. Each of these segments then can also be assigned to individual managers, either one-to-one or a one-to-many relationship. This allows us to deploy dashboards across the organization, giving rights to the individuals that need access to each level of data. Therefore, when a user has access to the main segment, they also have access to all the segments below them. However, if a user has access to only, say, a region, for example, that individual will only see those locations that belong to that child segment. Even further, if a manager only has access to a single child segment, that will be the only segment for which they receive data. Segments can be reviewed and edited by clicking on Admin and then using the tab called Segments. This is where we'll edit our hierarchy. This initial view contains details of each segment and shows up to 10 segments per page that you can review. They can be sorted, and you can see all the details, much like the file detail views you might see in your Windows Explorer, File Explorer. While we've always had a branch view by looking at and clicking on this tree view button, previously the number of segments was limited to 100 segments in which you could see in this view. However, we've made updates so you can see the entire list by clicking on this and being able to filter down into each individual location for however many segments or branches that you have. And since this is the top level view for reporting purposes, we need to make certain that you can see it all the way down from each individual node all the way to the top. Additionally, we've added a new feature that allows you to not only visualize it, but also manipulate it by exporting it to Excel. That tab is included right here so that you can export it and easily manipulate the data and review the segments that you have in place in the hierarchy. So whether it is for just keeping a record, identifying all your segment codes as you have them defined, or just using it for other analytics or manipulation of the data that you use outside the system, this is now available to you and easily downloadable. Of course, all the other tools remain the same within segments, so you can still import segments one at a time or in bulk by using the import function from Excel. We even provide a template that you can use to easily import those segments. Combining those segments with the one-to-one or one-to-many manager approach, as well as our product views, allows you to fully recognize reporting at a matrix level, not just a tree level. The next two features we're going to demonstrate are associated with our closed loop feedback tool that we call Action. Our action now consists of two loops, inner loop and outer loop. Inner loop is the traditional CX tickets that you're used to, assigning tickets based on certain responses, detractors, or text that may come in through a survey. Those tickets are assigned by the segments within the hierarchy that we just reviewed. Notifications are issued, and it's logged in the Actions section of our portal. Previously, when tickets were issued, they were all issued at the low priority status. And to update it, you had to manually go in following alerts and update it to the appropriate priority based on reading the responses to the survey or based on the interaction with the customer following the survey. Now within each survey, you can update the notifications and prioritize it based on rules that you set up and establish, both from custom variables as well as responses within the survey. An example of that might be in how you view detractor tickets. Traditionally, if you came in and you had a detractor ticket, it would be assigned low priority. And if it's not assigned within a rule, it will remain as a low priority in the action system. However, we do know that detractors are important to understand. Therefore, we may decide to make them medium priority based on the rules of our own organization. It's easy enough to assign it and then save the changes. Additionally, you can make even more complicated rules and assign them at varying levels based on the importance of the customer, as communicated through the custom variables, and how they responded. In this case, we have two for elite customers in which a notification happened where they're either detractors or non-detractors. For a non-detractor, we may say that they're important enough to make it medium and log the ticket, or we might want to assign them as low just because they're happy with the experience, even if they are an elite customer. However, we can then take someone that's an elite customer that is a detractor and had an unpleasant experience, and then be able to add the CX ticket, considering it critical because they are our top customers. Or you may want to assign it as high, depending on your organization's needs. This approach can be used with any type of criteria, including text-based criteria, where you might want to look for words like lawsuit and create a CX ticket for that. Not only to add the CX ticket and consider it a critical item if they say the word lawsuit, but also you can also add a notification so that it goes out to someone who's responsible for that activity, such as a legal counsel. So not only can you add that criteria for a CX ticket, you can also send it out to a specific individual, such as legal@QuestionPro.com, and include the survey response. There's two levels of ticketing so that you can get the notifications as well as be able to see it within the ticketing system and manage and maintain that ticket. And moving forward, you can see that automatic assignment even without having to open the case. And we also provide filtering tools so you can look at low, medium, high, or even those critical alerts that may have come in. In 2021, we've rolled out a new feature only currently being used by a select group of our customers called Outerloop. Outerloop is a different way of looking at the closed loop feedback tools. In the current state, many CX providers use closed loop feedback tools, but they're really focused on the inner loop, learning from individual customers, engaging the frontline employees, and fixing concerns raised during a customer interaction. And while that immediate corrective action is important, it's also necessary to have a system in place to fix systemic issues that may arise. If systemic issues occur frequently at one branch or one location within the hierarchy, it's easy for a frontline employee to determine that there must be steps that have to be taken to correct that issue within that branch. However, oftentimes, issues are masked behind a wide variety of issues that come in, and perhaps priorities are placed based on ad hoc references or stories heard from management or those frontline employees. Leveraging our NPS Plus approach, you can analyze the root cause of individual Outerloop CX tickets and use that to build a plan and a workflow for fixing those concerns, along with providing a tool to monitor progress and measure the performance of related KPIs. That will allow us to take that customer feedback beyond just the inner loop and responding to one-off issues as it may be seen across the organization, but also creating understanding the patterns that are created and making changes to fix those root causes, which also helps with employee engagement. Our NPS Plus question is designed to help us find and determine root causes of passives and detractors so that we can understand and look at these root causes and see where work may need to be improved across the board so that processes don't hurt the customer experience. Similar to our inner loop closed loop feedback action alerts, outer loop also is created at a feedback folder level. Initiatives are defined based on root causes that are demonstrated and picked within that feedback folder. And you can create any number of initiatives from within this screen. And when those are initiatives set up, you can name them, provide the description, determine which root causes or delay factors are related, and define teams and people that will be important in executing this initiative for the process improvement. Once the initiative is set up, you have the opportunity to create huddles that you can schedule on your mutual calendars and keep notes in place so everyone in the cross-functional team will know what's happening, and executive leadership can review it as well. Every time a huddle is completed, you can click on New Huddle, add your notes here, as well as determine which teams participated and which individuals participated, and save that huddle. There is a button up here in which members can assign an initiative health score, whether the initiative is in green, yellow, or red status. For all the people that are here can see and view, understand what's happening and what should be expected. This status update is made by the individuals on the team. There's also a second level status update that can be made by going into settings, in which activity can be monitored and ensure that if delays are happening or no one's paying attention to the initiative, it gets flagged. And within each of these initiatives, you can see which ones have been inactive for 10 days or even 30 days as it may apply. That ensures that activity is not only happening, but that the activity that's happening is also acceptable to the team members. And while discussion and buy-in is very important for any of these initiatives, it is also important to assign tasks and responsibilities to those accountable for completing these items. Any number of new tasks can be added by simply creating the task, defining what the task is or who it belongs to, selecting the individual or individuals that are accountable for that task, along with a due date. The tasks can be easily reviewed in the strategic loop review, and updates can be made as things progress forward. Statuses include pending, which is it hasn't yet started, in progress, which is started, not completed, completed, or closed if it's determined that that task is no longer needed. It's very easy to update, and therefore it's also very easy to see where everything stands with regard to your overall initiative. Ultimately, we should be able to see an improvement in KPIs that were used to initially assess and show the requirement for this initiative. Therefore, we have metrics and monitoring for each initiative that's selected based on two criteria. First, the NPS score, and second, the root cause or delight concerns that were escalated. When we look at the monitoring, it gives us an overall view of how we've been doing with the NPS, and also a trend line so that you can see improvements as it moves across time and changes happen. In addition to that, we also monitor all the root causes that were identified to understand where they're peaking and if improvements have been made in each of those root causes, usually resulting in a decrease in the percentage of those root causes selected for closed loop feedback. It allows us to look at the analytics in an isolated point of view instead of having to look across them in the more broad point of view in which we see the root causes demonstrated across everything. Instead, we're showing it very isolated based on what those needs are. And even though we can trend the root cause on our NPS Plus dashboard by months, you're still looking at all the information across the entire organization, not just the broader level. Is always necessary to be able to understand and assess and appreciate the differences that are being made by each of these initiatives. Therefore, the reason behind getting this detailed level of view, this targeted and this specific. The owner of the initiative will be able to add people that may not even usually access our CX platform. For example, a legal department that might need to be involved, a billing team or a billing IT tech team that might not always access action, closed loop feedback, or dashboards on a regular basis. Our outer loop tools fulfill that promise to really bring focus on not just one-time issues, but also to look at systemic issues, identify those root cause patterns, view those through reports, make the changes, get that customer feedback, and see that loop improve and fix problems within our organization that are impacting the customer experience. Both these tools hand in hand allow the frontline employees to be even more engaged and more alert and more in tune to what's going on, because issues are no longer written off as singular or one-off. Rather, they're assessed across the entire organization, even if it's a smaller issue that might not percolate otherwise. Oftentimes, things like return policy usually isn't seen as significant unless every customer was doing returns. But because it's a small subset, in aggregate, it may show up on a one-off basis. It likely wouldn't. Presently, we are limiting access to Outerloop to just a few select customers where we feel the strategic initiatives within the organization, the customer experience strategy, align with the need for Outerloop. If you think this is your organization, please reach out to me. Now, I will open it up for any questions. But first, I want to remind you to join our panel coming up next. I will be part of the panel, joined by two of my former colleagues and wonderful friends of mine, and it will be moderated by Crystal. We will talk about all of our CX stories from the field over the years, with a combined almost 70 years experience between the three panelists. We have certainly seen initiatives in the customer experience that have succeeded, failed, or just outrageous. No PowerPoints, bring your questions and bring your stories, and we look forward to that.